Last month we did a live where we attempted to tell the story of Brett and Eiko. It was one of my first lives. It was my first live with guests, and it was a mess. A lot of you, and myself as well, were left confused about what happened. Brett and Eiko were generous enough to come back and do a recorded interview this time, where we could put the story together in a clearer way, because their story deserves to be told. Before we get into the interview, I want to share some background information first to lay the foundation for their story. I have 2 disclaimers today. Mine is that everything in this video is my own opinion and my own interpretation of allegations that have been brought in both public X threads and legal filings. I do not speak for Brett and or Eiko. And this is their disclaimer. The first fact we need to understand about them is that they are members of a small, tight-knit group, the Montreal indie game community. Within that community, they're well known. In fact, the gaming community in all of Canada is pretty small. Another thing we need to know is that Brett was a stand-in body double for Ryan in Deadpool 2, which is how they crossed paths. Ryan's Wrexham partner, Rob McElhenney, also crossed paths with them in the creation of his Apple TV series, Mythic. It's important to note that they've been pursuing legal action for many years now, completely unrelated to the Baldoni Lively lawsuit. They've filed multiple human rights complaints beginning way back in 2021. It involved issues with Ryan Reynolds, with Mythic, and even one specifically aimed at Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Brett became involved in this lawsuit when Marvel was known to have been subpoenaed. Why? Because much in the same way that it appears Ryan used films to poke at Justin, it may well have been a killing 2 birds with 1 stone sort of situation. There are issues with NicePool and also with DogPool, completely unrelated to the issues that Justin has. In addition to that, it seems some information about one of Brett's family members made its way into another simple favor as well, in that Easter egg fashion that they seem to be so enamored with. Finally, there's another big issue surrounding ethnic erasure and misappropriation, specifically pertaining to the Métis people, an indigenous tribe known in Canada that Brett is a known tribe member of. These issues were already being pursued, and after they were made, it appeared to escalate. There was a situation involving Hugh Jackman where he, like Rob McElhenney, is very aware of Brett's complaints. He's had to address them, which of course could very well mean that Ryan is aware of these complaints, since Rob and Hugh are arguably Ryan's closest partners and friends. The story also includes what Brett and Eiko have alleged in legal documents that parts of their lives seem to be mirrored in film and TV associated with this group of people. How did all of this come to be? As I mentioned, they are well known among the game developing community in Canada. Among other aspects of creation, Eiko composed music for video games. She attended the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco in 2017. She was there working in the Snowcastle Games booth to promote the game she'd been helping to create, Earthlock. As mentioned, it's a small group, and as a beautiful and the only Japanese woman working on the project, she was easy to notice. Later in the recorded interview piece, you'll hear the story from her, but just to summarize, throughout the day she had a thermos, an easily recognizable thermos that she was drinking out of. She'd had it with her all day for water where everyone could see that it was hers. At the end of the day, they were served drinks, and so now it was holding alcohol. She didn't close it because imagine sipping a martini from a spout. Not good. A fan approached and wanted to meet her, so she stepped out and engaged with this person. She came back to her drink, finished it, and began to immediately feel very unwell. As she describes it, she felt she had been drugged. It was the only alcoholic drink that she'd had, so it wasn't a drunk situation. She reported this incident. Though she didn't accuse anyone specifically, she was later excluded from further projects. She had been led to believe that she would remain the music composer for Earthlock 2, but she was replaced by a male composer. In an episode of Mythic Quest, specifically one relating to a gamer convention, an AI gamer is introduced with the name Eiko.
Meet Eiko. Eiko here is the future of the streamer hustle. A 3D model that I can completely control in a mocap suit. It's a one-time cost, she never ages, or gets a better offer, and we can make her do whatever we want.
The spelling could also be pronounced as Eiko, and the emphasis on making her do whatever we want, especially said in the way that it is, was traumatic to Eiko, as it felt like a play on her being drugged at the convention in 2017. Because as we know, drugs, often described as a roofie or as a date rape drug, are used in order to drug a person, specifically to allow the person administering the drug to do whatever they want to them. On one of her threads on X, we see the relationship mentioned to Eiko by others about the relationship between Diddy and both Ryan and Rob. We see Diddy in his appearance on Rob's show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
When the last time you been to Haiti?
Never. I've been to Kensington.
When you was in Kensington, did you have intercourse with any hoes, ladies of the nights, or prostitutes?
No.
Don't worry about it. Doctor-client privilege, don't worry about it. I got what you need.
Okay. Oh, that burns!
Mother Earth don't play.
Do you have anything?
And again here in an Aviation Gin commercial with Ryan.
For the last 10 months, Diddy, David, and me, Ryan Reynolds, have been hard at work on an industry first.
Here's to you guys. Oh, bro. Ryan, it tastes like ass feet.
Ryan, this is not going to work.
That's why we got leaders to the mixologist.
This is just another reminder of the kinds of people affiliated with WME. And though they dropped Justin immediately after Ryan's alleged requests and accusations, as of June 21st, 2025 in the year of our Lord, there have been no statements made by WME regarding dropping Diddy. After Eiko was shut out and replaced by a male composer on Earthlock 2, she and her husband Brett founded Studio Ishiwata to create new opportunities for her instead. They began work on a video game named Valiant Mirror, where everything was designed by her with some direction from Brett. They also created an original concept indie film called The Watcher and the Wraith, and publicly released a proof of concept trailer. Connections are very important to this story. For example, Ubisoft is a video game developer company, and Brett and Eiko have long-standing professional connections with past and present Ubisoft employees. One of Brett's childhood friends was employed there, and they signed an NDA agreement and were in talks to hire him. As I mentioned earlier, Eiko stood out in the gamer crowd. First of all, it's mostly made up of men. So in 2017, she was the only woman. She was also the only Japanese composer on stage in the Montreal Video Game Symphony. Not only that, she's much taller than the average Japanese woman and even Japanese man, so she stands out even amongst people of her own ethnicity. Many Ubisoft-affiliated composers were in attendance, in addition to the many Ubisoft employees in various developer roles. It would have been hard to have missed seeing her there. Brett and Eiko continued attending the game industry events where they promoted their game in creation, Valiant Mirror. It's important to note that they attended Ubisoft events. Eiko had a professional film camera and was the only company in attendance with a professional film crew, another point which would have drawn attention to her. This all occurred during the time that Rob McElhenney was doing research for his then upcoming series, Mythic Quest. In this clip, we find Jason Vanderberg discussing this.
Mythic Quest is a TV show that Ubisoft helped put together that is it's a parody of what it's like to make video. It's a video game development team, And it's a sort of a.
This is recent, right? With the guy from
yes,
Sunny in Philadelphia.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen that and going, I need to watch that. I know exactly what you're talking about now. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
When that show was announced, when the trailer came out, I had 1 billion. Like all of my friends were like, "Is that you? Like, have you?" You know, I mean, obviously this guy had been studying. He was working with Ubisoft on it, right? And there was clearly like the character had been drawn, right?
Yeah.
Well, he gave an interview on, I think it was on Conan, where he talked about the origin of the show, and he told the story about how he had gone to Montreal because he was working with Ubisoft to see maybe we would do a show, and he went to Montreal. Okay. And he said that he was sort of wandering the halls, and he saw this dude who was dressed in all black, long hair, cowboy hat, right? And he was walking around with a cane, and he was like, you could clearly see that the cane was a prop. He didn't need it, right? Like it was just a thing, right? And he said, he was like, I gotta, talk to this dude. And he said, he came over and he sat down and he's like, hey brother, how you doing? And I said, hey, how are you? And he's like, what do you do? And he said, I'm a creative director. And I said to him, well, what does a creative director do? I don't know what that is, right? And he said, this guy, he looked off into the distance. Yeah. Even though we were just on the 5th floor and it was just fluorescent lights and it wasn't just kind of looked off, stared off the distance. And he was and he said, brother, I make worlds. And he said, excuse me for just a minute. I'm going to step outside. He said he went outside, called his collaborator, his producer on the phone and was like, we are making a show about that. We are going to do this, right? This is a madhouse. Happening. Yeah, this is a madhouse, right? Fertile ground. Yeah. And when I heard that story, I watched it. I had a bunch of people send me the interview and this is clearly you. And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't think that sounds really pretentious. I don't think that's me. To a person, every one of my friends are like, that totally sounds like you. What are you talking about? It's 100% you.
Jason Vandenberg is a former Ubisoft developer, often referred to as the Dark Lord. Now by that clip, it seems very clear that Rob was in fact visiting these events to get inspiration for his upcoming series, Mythic Quest. Besides these connections, there are some people we need to introduce you to. Chris Nichols is Eiko's ex-husband. He's a visual effects artist who worked on both Free Guy and Deadpool and Wolverine. After their separation, Eiko was dog-sitting Starbuck when Chris stopped by to get some of his things. He spent a little time interacting with Starbuck. As I mentioned, he went on to work on Deadpool and Wolverine. This is where the version of DogPool changed drastically from the comic book DogPool to a sort of caricature version of Starbuck. A lot of the same features, but exaggerated, and we'll learn more about that in the 4th episode. We can see other guys on the list were people that they'd encountered in their circuit as well, and how these guys end up in the creative process of the films and TV shows relevant to this story. In addition to the Eiko AI character, Eiko noticed that the character Poppy in Mythic Quest resembles her at the time of her appearances at GDC. She can't help but wonder if, much like they used Jason's appearance for Ian, they might have used her appearance for Poppy. And another character reminds her of her husband Brett, especially since, as mentioned, Rob visited these events for inspiration while creating Mythic Quest. In one episode, Rob's character sends the character who resembles Brett to the basement, out of jealousy.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Dunno. Depends. Are you going to try and fight me?
I deserve that. No. I came to apologize. Actually, welcome me. Look, man, I try to think of myself as an evolved human, but I find myself in these patterns of toxic masculinity, and honestly, it's just not cool. It's not your fault that I'm insecure about your physicality, or that I'm threatened by your war record, or quite frankly, all of the things that make you such an amazing man, so I'm sorry.
Wow, it's very noble of you. I really appreciate the gesture and the apology. Thank you.
The truth is, I've been so impressed with you that I have given you a promotion.
Wow, thank you, Ian. What does that mean?
It means you get a new office. Yes, wow. Down next to Sue, our community manager. There's your new key card.
Wow, Ryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Careful with that card. It is a little bit finicky, but it will get you down to the basement and keep you there forever.
So keep me there, I'm not sure what.
Toxic masculinity, my ass.
Doesn't that seem reminiscent of Justin being sent to the basement? During the live, we did discuss the way that Free Guy has a storyline about a male and female's intellectual property being stolen, and the odd promotion about it being a true story. This has all been deleted now, like a lot of the Blake stuff is currently being deleted. But the villain in that story, Antoine, also seems to be styled after Jason as well. There does seem to be a trend with these guys of basing their characters after real people. Now we get to the two birds with one stone. Ryan and Blake allegedly copy Taylor's style of planting Easter eggs in their work. While Taylor's are happy and fun to look for, Ryan and Blake's not so much. We've seen this with the accusations about NicePool, him talking about being a feminist, while Blake made a post about all the ways that she influenced Deadpool, specifically mentioning guys pretending to be feminists. We saw her thank Gordon Reynolds in It Ends With Us, and we saw NicePool in credits on Deadpool being called Gordon Reynolds. That's just a couple of the things. We've talked about a lot of those before. But now that we know that Ryan had ongoing troubles with accusations against him brought by Brett and Eiko, now we know that Hugh Jackman did too, and so did Rob. We also know how they're not able to handle any kind of criticism. You'll see more in episode 4 about how Ryan is definitely aware of Brett and Eiko. There was some social media interaction. You'll also hear more about that on the interview. But remember, we're not just talking about Ryan and Rob. We're talking about the creators that helped them with their films and TV shows. These were people who were much more familiar with Brett and Eiko in real life and had access to their public social media. Brett and Eiko have alleged that in addition to using NicePool as a way to target Justin Baldoni, some of the creative concepts may also have come from Brett and Starbuck. We've also seen many comparisons with Leanne, with Ashley, with Mandy, about Starbuck and DogPool, but there's also a situation that involves Brett. Look at this clip that was posted on Brett's social media before Deadpool and Wolverine. It's very reminiscent of the scene where we meet NicePool after his dog runs away from him.
Come here, Starbuck, come. Starbuck. Come here, come. Starbuck, come. Come. Ah. Come on, Starbuck, come here. Starbuck, come here. Starbuck, hey. Starbuck, come. Come here, Starbuck. Starbuck, ah. Starbuck, come on. Come here. Come on, Starbuck. Ready? Ha. No, wait. Ah.
Look at you! She's coming with us!
No, she's not.
Oh, yes.
No.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Come here, girl. Who are you? Oh, I'm Deadpool. And I guess you're Deadpool, too. But in here, everybody calls me NicePool.
Now let me introduce you to a couple of charts to help navigate what you'll hear in the interview. Here's a chart of the important people to the story. First, we have Brett and Eiko. We know that Brett served as a stand-in for Ryan on Deadpool 2. He's involved in the Vancouver film industry. He's a lead programmer for the video game Valiant Mirror, and we're going to see much more about that in episode 4. He's former Canadian military intel, and of course, he's a member of the Métis tribe. Eiko was allegedly drugged at GDC in 2017. She was the only woman on stage for a high-profile game orchestra performance, and she's very active in the video game industry in Montreal, specifically with Ubisoft game developers. Remember the other ways we've described her and the ways that she stands out. For a long time, she was the only woman, she was the only Japanese person, and also things like her stature make her stand out. Then we have Starbuck. Starbuck was Brett's service dog, allegedly the inspiration for DogPool. And by seeing the thumbnail, we saw to the left was the comic version of DogPool, looking nothing like how DogPool ended up looking. Then we saw a picture of Starbuck in the middle, and ultimately the dog who plays DogPool. It's important to know that as a service dog, Starbuck was on many Vancouver film sets. She was seen by many people. She also was often seen on Brett's social media. Then we have Jason Vandenberg. We've already spoken about him, his nickname the Dark Lord, and he is a creative director. He used to be a developer for Ubisoft. We heard him describe how he's the inspiration for Ian in Mythic Quest, and possibly Antoine in Free Guy. He was also present at the GDC in 2017. Then we have Rob McElhenney. He's the co-creator of Mythic Quest. We already learned that he frequented game events in order to get ideas and inspiration for Mythic Quest. He's also the co-owner of Wrexham Soccer Team, along with Ryan. He was cast in Deadpool and Wolverine, filmed it, but his part was later cut. Then we have Humphrey Kerr from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is Rob McElhenney's show, who makes appearances as Paul in Mythic Quest. He's the guy that looks quite like Brett. Then we have Poppy. She's the co-lead on Mythic Quest, her and Ian being sort of partners but at odds with each other. On the show, she's the lead engineer, but her styling, her wardrobe, her glasses are very similar to photos of Eiko at the 2017 GDC where the alleged drugging occurred. And of course, we don't miss the fact that she is Asian as well. Next, we have Chris Nichols. He's a lead texture artist and Eiko's ex. He worked on Free Guy, Deadpool, and Wolverine. He's also worked a lot with the Grobies, who are the next people. Thomas doesn't have a visual presence on social media, but he is a visual effects producer at Legendary. He's also a visual effects coordinator. He worked on Deadpool 2, where Brett was a stand-in, where Starbuck was on set. And just to say in passing interest, he worked on Chaos Walking with the judge's brother, Doug Lyman. And we believe they're brothers, but not sure. William Groby, also in visual effects. He works in the art department, and he worked both on Free Guy and he works on Mythic Quest. And we'll see a picture of him again later. Now, in addition to the Who's Who chart, let's take a look at this chart that kind of shows how all of this crisscrosses. Across the top, we have the different films and TV shows that involve all of these people at some point or another. And then down the left side, we have people and production companies. So we see Thomas Groby worked on Deadpool 2, and we added Chaos Walking because that's one that Judge Lyman's brother directed. It's also produced by Lionsgate 3 Arts Entertainment. This is some of that stock that Judge Lyman owns that's very worrisome. And if you look across the row of Lionsgate 3 Arts Entertainment, it touches on Nick Frankel in Free Guy, and you'll hear more about that in the interview. But it produces Mythic Quest. It produced Chaos Walking, as I just said. It's one of the production companies of Wrexham, and also Blake's movies, A Simple Favor, and Another Simple Favor. We'll see a lot more of this stuff about this in episode 4. We'll hear Brett and Eiko talk about these in episodes 2 and 3, and we'll see more about this as well in episode 4. But look at how many things Deadpool and Wolverine crosses paths with. And you see how quite a few of the same creative people have crossed paths with each other and with Brett and Eiko. For example, in the picture on the right-hand side, we see William Groby, Sean Levy, a very good friend and partner with Ryan Reynolds in the whole Deadpool series. And just a further look into William Groby, this is him on Mythic Quest. We see he's listed as the animation supervisor. And notice what they do. They oversee the quality and consistency of animation work within a project. They work closely with the directors and other department heads to ensure that the animation aligns with the creative vision and narrative of the film or series. They're a bridge between the technology, the artists, and the storytelling. And then on the right, we see his position on Free Guy and Deadpool and Wolverine, and we see he was in both of those a storyboard artist. So as you see the storyboard here, this is a very important part because it's what keeps, just as he is his animation supervisor, it keeps the quality and consistency throughout the whole project. But it seems like this person would maybe even sketch out the characters of how they should look, or at least choose from the sketches how they want the character to look, and set the pace of the story. I think as kids, we all saw the Imagineering at Disney World, how they would map out a story and act it out. I remember them acting out the characters of Lion King specifically. So these are important roles. Naturally, when someone's trying to think up stuff like this, when they're creating, they will be affected by things that they've seen in their lives. But it's very important that although you draw on experiences, you have to be careful about not taking something from someone who actually exists. You've got to be able to imagine these things in your own creativity and not stealing from other people. Not that I'm accusing William Groby of this, but as you hear the story, keep these roles and all of these people in mind. Now, as I mentioned, this will be a 4-part series. This one was the brief introduction. Parts 2 and 3 will be the actual interview. Part 4 will compare Eiko's creations to some things that show up in Mythic Quest. And if you haven't checked out her thread on X, please be sure to do that. She's put a lot of work into it. And then at the end of episode 4, we'll have them back on live to do a Q&A session. So be sure to keep track of any questions you have through the first 3 episodes, because you'll get a chance to ask them in episode 4. The interviews will be coming soon. Till then, this is Cassidy O'Connell saying stay well and stay tuned.